The World Ends with Witches, written by Aya. Chapter 2, Open Up Your Senses. Shiki led the way through the streets of Shibuya. Even during the early hours of the morning, folks were up and about, well on their way to one odd place or another. Most of them bustled forward with a clear sense of purpose, knowing exactly where to cross, which lavish corners to stop and wait at. But her? Well, maybe she was a bit lost. She checked the mirror in her hand once again. When she did, its surface pulsed, then changed, reflecting a map of the area back at her instead of her own face. I think it's this way. Resolve grew within her, and she continued down the brick sidewalk with her mirror pressed close to her chest. After all, this was her trusted tome. It had never let her down on her travels before. Shiki, hold on. Rhyme called out, breathing hard. The witch turned, only to see her partner slump against a building. Rhyme! Shiki hurried to her side. Are you okay? Do you need some help? I'm fine, she reassured, sinking down onto the pavement. I think I just need to rest a little bit. I'm not used to moving around like this. Okay, just don't strain yourself, Shiki said. She paused, taking note of the brass bell necklace dangling over Rhyme's dress. Hey, where'd you get that? I don't remember adding that with the dress. This? Rhyme held it in her palms as Shiki knelt down next to her. It's the same bell that was on my collar. I guess it got bigger thanks to your spell. Did you get it at the shelter? I'm not sure. Rhyme's voice carried a thoughtful hum, and she peered up toward the brisk morning sky. The older cats always told me that I had it ever since I was brought in. It's weird, but when I hear it, it just makes me feel really happy. Like maybe someone wanted me to have this. The someone you're searching for? Shiki asked. Maybe. I hope so anyway. The familiar replied, glancing over at her new friend and the black cat plushie that hung from her belt. What about you? Where'd you get that little guy? Oh, Mr. Mew? With a flourish of Shiki's fingers, Mr. Mew gave Rhyme a wave. I made him, actually. He was both the first thing I sewed and the first thing I enchanted. Really? Rhyme's face lit up in wonder. You must have had him for a while. Yeah, we've been together for a few years now. Noting Rhyme's confusion, Shiki added, I'm something of a late bloomer with my magic. Honestly, I don't even understand it sometimes. But as long as I can use it to make people happy, then that's what matters. The younger girl let out a giggle. Sounds like you have a pretty nice dream. Shiki hesitated, biting her lip. Shaking her head, she spun to her feet with a broad grin. I think I need to get my bearings a bit. I have no idea where this map's taking us. You're gonna be fine if I go once around the block. Sure, go ahead, Rhyme nodded. If I run into trouble, I'll just change back into a cat and hide. Alright, I won't be long, Shiki promised, and she started back on the route downtown. As she walked, her vision drifted between the map and the tall wooden structures around her. A dream, huh? Her tome's surface shifted, replacing her map with an old photo. The longer she looked, the harder her hand gripped, and she clenched her teeth as she tore her weary eyes away from it. She needed a distraction. Thankfully, the shops here were far more lively than those in the many other towns she visited. Several had decorated pumpkins lining the base of the windows and fancy iron-woven signs. An odd choice, but she had to admit, it made for a rather charming aesthetic. I wonder if they have any nice clothing stores, Shiki thought, idly fiddling with one of her black lace gloves. Not that I have anyone to go shopping with now. Enough! She scolded herself, raising her fist high in the air. Her outburst drew the attention of quite a few baffled heads. I can't keep thinking about this right now. I have a job to do. With that in mind, Shiki banished those lonely thoughts, redirecting her focus on the strange way the stone road seemed to merge together. This fresh smell of pie from a nearby cafe tickled her nose as she traveled along the edge of it. Now if only she could make heads or tails of where she was. Shiki came to a sudden halt, her gaze settling on a bronze sculpture that stood out from the plants and branches and surrounding it a fair distance away. Raised up on a high block, it was a statue of a Kita dog, sitting and waiting. I've heard of this statue before, she realized. Curious, she approached Monsieur Mentman, as though drawn towards it. She couldn't put her finger on what exactly compelled her about it, just that it did, immensely so. Wasn't it? Before she could finish that thought, she ran smack dab into a bag of assorted items, and coincidentally, the person behind them too. Apples and daikon scattered across the ground, and Shiki found herself face to face with a teen sporting wild orange hair. His piercing blue eyes, frozen over his face in a cold, tired glare, gave her only a moment's glance before he knelt down, picking up the food with his own gloved hands. Shiki couldn't help but stare. He looked to be about her age, though he seemed almost too formal for this town with his black suit and cute blue bow tie. You just gonna stand there gawking? The young man asked. Oh, sorry, Shiki blurted out, bending down to grab an apple. Here, let me help. I didn't ask for your help. His tone was sharp and curt as he snatched a few daikons away from her grasp. Just quit staring. It's annoying. Cute bow tie, less than cute attitude. Don't be like that. She reached out to return her apple to his bag. He pulled away with a scoff, though denying her access. Haven't you made a big enough a mess already? Leave me the hell alone. What's with you? Shiki retorted, losing her patience. Something about this guy's foul mood really pushed her buttons. I'm trying to be nice and help clean up. Well, you can take your generosity and shove it. The boy rose back up, with most of his groceries gathered, not even caring that Shiki still held onto one apple. I can take care of myself, he snapped, so mind your own damn business. Shiki's mouth flew open to respond, but the words didn't form fast enough. He turned and took off, clutching his paper bags tight in each arm. There was no apology, no thank you, nothing. Left in the dust, she simply stared at him in disbelief. Never had she met someone so completely and utterly exasperating. As he began to fade into the crowd, Shiki stuck her tongue out at his back. It wasn't much of a victory, but it still made her feel better, not like he ever know. What was his problem? She grumbled to herself as she conjured up her map again. Her eyes eased over to the time in the upper right corner, only to discover that 10 minutes has passed. Oh no, I left Rhyme way too long. She raced back to where she left her partner to find Rhyme still sitting there, happily chatting away. Sometime during Shiki's absence, she'd been joined by a bright orange tabby. The witch couldn't help herself from wincing. As much she loved cats, this one reminded her far too much of the rude, spiky-headed boy. Oh, hey, Shiki, Rhyme greeted, though she stopped short when she noticed what her companion was holding. Where'd you get that apple? Some jerk left it behind, Shiki replied with a pout. Some jerk? Yeah, he bumped into me, or, well, I guess I bumped into him. Either way, he dropped a bunch of fruits and stuff, then got mad at me when I tried to help him clean it up. I swear, I just don't get people like that. So, what are you gonna do with the apple? Oh! Shiki stared down as though it were some cursed object dripping in poison. For all she knew, it could have been. Here, you can have it. She shoved it into Rhyme's hands. Anyway, enough about the apple jerk. I think we need to head up that way, she said, pointing away from the statue. The witch's coven in this town is in a section called Harajuku, but I think I like this place for setting up shop. We'll have to ask if there are empty storefronts around here we can use. Why didn't you say that to begin with? Rhyme pushed herself up. I know where Harajuku is. We can cut from Miyashita Park to get there. Ah, that's right. I guess you lived here your whole life, huh? Shiki dusted off her dress. You're ready to go? Yeah, follow me. Rhyme took the lead towards the park, a bounce in her step as she continued adjusting to her two human legs. They made a game of ascending the stairs, Shiki barely beating Rhyme to the top before they both stopped beneath the tall archways welcoming them in. As far as parks went, this vast green space was quite unlike anything she'd seen before. Clusters of ivy sprawled between the intricate steel archways, and dappled sunlight dotted the grass in warm splotches, mixing nicely with the red and browns from the autumn trees sprinkled throughout. Along the stone pathway, intricate black iron lamps matching the Gothic design of the arches towered over the path, prepared to light the way with their luminescent quartz the moment darkness fell. Since the area was packed to the brim with chatty locals and aimless tourists, it didn't take long for Shiki to notice that many gave her the side-eye, and some even scuffed away from her and Rhyme, keeping to the opposite edge of the path. What's everyone's deal today? She mumbled, pulling the sides of her hat down self-consciously. Don't you have witches here? Kinda. We have a fortune teller and some who sell products and services, but most humans don't really like witches anymore. Shiki frowned, her sad yet inquisitive brown eyes observing the passers-by. Really? Why not? I mean, everyone seems to still use tomes here. You mean those mirror things? Rhyme asked. What are they exactly? Tomes are more than just mirrors. They're imbued with magic to show you maps, news, to let you communicate over long distances. Just about any piece of info you need, you can probably find on a tome, Shiki explained, all too eager to show off her own tome. You can even customize them if you find a witch who specializes in magic tech. Wow, they sound pretty useful. Rhyme clasped her hands behind her back. To answer your question before, though, witches don't exactly have the best history in Shibuya. And it probably doesn't help that the main acting witch here now is kinda eccentric. So, from what I understand, basic magic's okay, but anyone with high potential needs to be registered and has to be careful how they use it. Probably a good thing we're heading to the coven then, huh? Shiki placed a finger on her chin. Where are you from, anyway? Rhyme hopped down the sets of stairs leading to the next street, a long, smaller street with paw prints sprayed along the storefronts. She proudly landed on both feet by the bottom step, her arms spread wide to keep her balance. Sekigaya, Shiki answered, though I've been more of a traveling witch for about 3 years now. You must be pretty strong to travel for all the noise. Not really. Shiki waved her arms in front of her, as if to bat away the compliment. I mostly just wear enchanted clothes that don't attract attention, and Mr. Mew does most of the fighting when I do find some. You still saved me from the shark, though. Well, I couldn't exactly leave you there to die. Besides, it worked out in the end. I'll say. Recognizing the district, Rhyme jogged ahead a little before spinning back around to tell her friend, Harajuku's just ahead. Shiki sped up, unable to contain her excitement. Perfect! We just need to find the coven then. Know where it is? Afraid not, Rhyme admitted, falling back next to Shiki as they enter a large plaza. I've explored here some with the local cats, but I've never heard of the witch's coven being in this area before. No signs or anything? The witch surveyed the storefronts that they passed, from boutiques to small restaurants to unlabeled businesses. This part of town contains some of the most expensive silky styles and luxurious food that Shiki has ever seen. Not that I know of, but I didn't really try looking for it back then. Buongiorno ragazzi, a male voice rang out, causing Shiki to jump. Was a foreigner looking to them for help? Her eyes landed on a young man with messy brown hair who wearing a spiffy western suit. You two appear to be lost, the man continued with a jovial smile. My name's Matoi Yanazawa. I grew up in this fair town, so I couldn't offer my siesta if you need. You're... what? Pardon. I mean to say my assistant, he corrected. You're from out of town, aren't you? I don't believe I've seen a sorcier like you before. Yeah. Shiki lowered her hand to pat Mr. Mew, deciding that perhaps it'd be better just to roll with the unusual phrases pouring from his mouth. I'm looking for the witch's coven here so I can get registered. Oh, well then, allow one to lead the way then. I happen to know the trick code and you need to find it. The two girls exchanged puzzled glances, but with no other leads, Shiki gave a nod. Okay, thanks, Matoi, right? Oui, though I don't believe I got your numbers yet. When they didn't answer, Matoi said your names, that is. Alright, I'm Shiki Masaki, and this is Rhyme. Nice to meet you, Rhyme said. You as well, Chiquita, Matoi replied, showing them a shortcut across the plaza. If you're searching for the coven, that means you want to use magia openly, correct? What sorts of spells can you do? I can do enchantments, like enhancing clothes with all sorts of spells, Shiki said. I can heal a bit too. Enchantments and healing. Sounds like you have a lot of talento. Smiling down at Rhyme, Matoi asked, and what about you? Me? I'm not really a witch. Rhyme's eyes darted from place to place. She didn't know how to specify your true nature to a stranger, let alone one as peculiar as this. Ah, I see. You must be a pretty good amiga then to help her search for the coven. It's rare that people accept unknown socios so openly here. I guess we've seen that today, Shiki muttered, wondering if part of that Applejerk's problem had been with her witch getup. Are you sure you should be helping us? People might not like it. Then could that pass, he said in an uplifting voice. Acting as a simple guy won't be a problema, especially if you get registered and become well known around here. Of course, being well known as Saucier is more of an underground thing, but you catch my drift, no? Yeah, I think so. Shiki squinted when they found themselves on a busy street painted in bright, pretty pastels. Dazzling as it was, the hundreds of neon bolts drawn along took some getting used to. So, how do we find the coven? Ma chérie, you heard of the cows, haven't you? Matoi beckoned them over to an otherwise unassuming building. He indicated to the wood next to the door, though try as she might, Shiki couldn't see anything particularly special about it. You're trying too hard to see it, Miss Amigas, Matoi said. Close your eyes for a second. Feel it instead. You might be surprised by what you find. Though confused, she followed his instructions. She closed her eyes, allowing herself to focus. As she did, she could sense something there, though she couldn't be sure what. Grasping the feeling, she slowly left her eyelids. Now she could see it, the decal. It rested against the wall with a misty black magic, taking on the shape of a skull with an X below it. She blinked, losing her concentration in her surprise, and just like that, the decal vanished. That was... Rumor is, an unknown sorcier set those up for people. Matoi rubbed his hand behind his head, and if you find one, you also find a place that accepts magia without question. A virtuoso for those who dabble more than they should, if you will. Huh? Shiki and Rhyme awed at the building. It appeared to be nothing more than an ordinary flower shop on the outside, but that decor alone held a hint to the true unknown marvels hidden within it. So then, this place is your coven, madame, Matoi replied with a wink. I'm afraid this is as far as I go, but I wish you best in your esfuerzos. Shiki bowed in gratitude. Thanks, Matoi. We wouldn't have found it so fast without your help. De nada, señoritas, he said, issuing a thumbs up. I'll be seeing you around then, petite socia. Matoi gave one last wave and then took his leave, soon disappearing around a corner. With him gone, the girls turned back to their target. Well, this is it, Shiki said, a nervous hand on Mr. Mew's head. You ready, Rhyme? Yeah, let's get you registered. Shiki nodded, and freeing the breath she stored away deep down in her throat, she curled her fingers around the door handle. She just hoped registration proved easier than navigating the path over here.